So welcome everyone to the Preschool Neuroscience Summit. Today I'm really happy to have Helina Mellanen with us. She's come to us from Finland, where she runs Emotional Intelligence Skills for Life. She has an MBA, she's an emotional intelligence ambassador and a business mom, and she combines her strengths as an EI coach, a speaker, and a researcher. And her goal is really to help parents and children thrive in what they do and have healthy work-life balances using emotional intelligence. So welcome, Helina, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Helen. I'm so honored to be here today and excited about what we'll be talking about. So hi, everybody watching, and thank you for having me.
Great. So we'll have all the links and everything so that you can contact Helina after the summit if you want to find out more about the work she's doing. And she also has a program called the Emotional Intelligence Habit Tracker, which she has a 50% discount code for you. So check that out as well. We'll have the code in the comment box. So Helina, tell us a little bit about how we can deal with, we're all going through a tough time now with COVID. There's a lot of stress and anxiety. So how can we deal with these difficult emotions?
Well, there are so many ways we can deal with these difficult emotions but what I always tell my clients and everybody I talk to when they start, opening up about the difficult situation they're in and having so much going on is to I talk about finding time and finding energy initially before we start going into all the emotional intelligence theory behind that. So we start understanding how we function as human beings, what my habits are, are they good habits? Is there something I need to change that I do daily that's not really good for me or good for the family or good for my career? So that's why I always, with my clients, start with tracking their habits. And once we start understanding, who we are and how we function on a daily basis and what triggers us, what gives us that, feeling of stress or that feeling of anxiety. Is it only COVID-19 or is it actually going to the store and having to line up, or is it something, really practical that we can solve and change? And from then on, we can start practicing more of that self-awareness, doing some mindful practices, or, going deeper. But we need to first understand who we are as a person.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's so much, you really have to develop that awareness, don't you, of what it is that's bothering you. So what would you say, Helina? So, we might be feeling more stressed. Some of us maybe managing it better or worse than others. What about children? How can we notice if they are feeling troubled or stressed? What would you suggest that we look out for in our own children at home, or maybe teachers at school? What are the signs that something might be upsetting them?
There might be lots of signs, but just that sense of having a small moment with that child one-on-one and sensing if they have something. Our mirror cells in our brain, they do the work for us. We don't have to be scientists or experts in the field to understand that something's troubling a child, but maybe practicing more of that mindful listening with the child, even though the child is very small. It can, be a moment on the sofa with a storybook, and in between, start a conversation about the story, and the child will start opening up about, their own feelings or what's been going on in daycare or how they feel about their big brother, exploding at the dinner table, whatever the subject might be. It's just taking that time and calming yourself down to actually make the time to be present and listen, because having all of this, extra burdens from working from home and having everybody at home, at least we have the whole family. I have 3 kids, 10, 4, and 2, and my partner, and we're all, in the same rooms constantly. You just have to make that time with every child one-on-one to give them that, that shoulder or that moment where they can actually feel that you're 100% present without having your mobile phone in the other hand. And that calms the situation. You're being a mirror, to your child, of being able to be calm and not that stressful parent that you might sometimes want to be, and maybe reflect that on your partner, that, oh, I'm doing so much at home, look at me, I'm so stressed. But just get that moment with your child one-on-one and concentrate 100% on them and how they're feeling, and start a conversation if you can.
Yeah, I love that. Great advice. Especially, I think, we're so distracted nowadays by technology, and so yeah, just being present, right, is such an important thing, as you said. And I love what you said about using storybooks as well, because I always find storybooks are, children can relate to the characters, or it may be more easy to discuss things, right, when you're doing it in that kind of comfortable context and talking about outside situation. So yeah, wonderful advice. And yeah, I feel my kids are a bit, they're both not at home anymore. One's still in school, but I feel for the parents that are homeschooling and working, and so it is, I think we do kind of have to remind ourselves to make that important time, that it's not just about being there, but really being there, right?
And I always remind people to go back to the very basics. You do need, a certain amount of hours of sleep. If you're sleep deprived, your emotions, they change. You become more stressed, you become more anxious, you eat, just go back to the basics. See that you get that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. See that you're getting a meal when you should be getting a meal. And, it will calm the whole family down, and everybody will be able to, get into that rhythm of life where you're taking care of your basic needs. And after that, you can concentrate on the more emotional stuff and take that one-on-one time with everybody. Because if you're tired and anxious all the time, you won't be able to do that.
Yeah, that self-care is, I think, so important. Yeah. So Helina, can you share maybe some practical ideas or ways that we can support our children when they're kind of experiencing these difficult emotions? What are, maybe some immediate things that we can do, and then maybe some kind of longer term strategies that might help to help our children? Yeah.
Sure. I'm a great fan of Ross Green. If anybody out there is listening, I've read all of his books, and I implement a lot of his strategies with my children, because ironically, my eldest son, he's quite of an explosive child, and always has been, and has trouble regulating his emotions. So we've done a lot of work around his emotions and how to get him talking about his emotions. And even though he's 10 at the moment, he acts out or explodes or expresses his emotions in the manner of a younger child would. So I have a 4-year-old, and he has tantrums bigger than our 4-year-old, just because he has different transmitters in his brain, or whatever the reason might be. But we have to make more effort with him when there's a difficult situation or an emotion. But quite a recent trick that we've been using is our dog. So if you do have animals, or a teddy bear is something that your child loves, I always, when my son is having a difficult situation, we don't talk, because he's not listening. So I call in the dog, we pet the dog, we do nothing but pet the dog until he regulates his emotions, he's out of that really difficult situation, and we let some time pass. And we've together come up with a strategy of how to solve these situations. Because before, we would, sit for hours, and he'd cry, and I'd try to comfort him, and I'd start feeling sad, and we'd just go on in that really emotional state for a very long time, which wasn't good for anybody. But we decided that the second he says sorry, I say sorry, and we don't talk about it anymore. Unless he brings it up later on in conversation, or after we've calmed ourselves down and he says sorry, I say sorry. We talk about the dog, we talk about something else, and it might come up in a later situation in the day that, oh, I was so frustrated because something in school happened. I'm like, oh, okay. How could we, deal with that the next time? So we talk and we strategize. I'm his partner in crime of finding a result for him. I'm not maybe, the traditional mom trying to lecture him on, you don't need to scream when you feel sad about something. You shouldn't be hitting, your stuff or breaking things. He knows all that. Children know that. They know how they should be behaving. But when they have a difficult emotion, they just need to let it out. And you have to give them space to let it out. And then, they start to understand that giving time and finding that way of regulating it themselves. And for us, it's the dog. Petting the dog, it helps. It soothes him. But for my other child, calling the dog in doesn't work whatsoever. We do something else. We might, take a book out and look at the pictures, but we let time pass. That's how I deal with all of my children, even though the strategy is a bit different and that they all have these difficult emotions and express them differently. It's giving time. And as we know ourselves, when we have that, what Daniel Goleman says, that amygdala hijack, we have that very intense feeling of emotion and we're just in that state of anger or in that state of anxiety and stress. We're not really using our prefrontal cortex or, capable of objective thinking, So you just need to let it pass, and then you can come back to that prefrontal cortex and start thinking about, okay, what happened and why am I upset? And, can I deal with this a better way next time? But it's time. And breathing actually works for my 4-year-old, and she hears me breathe next to her. I start doing a bit of a mindfulness practice, having a teddy bear on my belly or having that book there and just going, and she joins in. Yeah. So that's one good strategy that might work for somebody.
Yeah, I think it's so true. Like every child is unique, just like every person is unique, and finding what works for them. And then the other thing I think you said, it's not the time in the middle of this, these kind of outbursts to try and like implement a new strategy or bring in. It's kind of the pre and post work that's done kind of over time, isn't it? That develops. But I love bringing in the animal as well, because I know a lot of children find that very soothing to have an animal with them. So, and I think there's quite a bit of research as well showing how pets can be so good for our emotional regulation and stability.
Absolutely.
So what would you say, Helina? Because sometimes as I mentioned, my kids are older now, but I remember when they were younger, and if they get maybe having a temper tantrum or something happens, and it's so difficult for us to kind of not get swept up into that, or the teenage years with the rebellion and stuff. So what advice would you give to parents about how to deal with their own kind of emotions in those situations?
Well, I always suggest that the parent is there to be the person to bounce those feelings off of, not child, because they need somebody who's there and who's calm and who they can, trust in as, okay, I have these difficult emotions, but okay, my mom is calm, my dad is calm. They're not afraid that, oh my God, if I let these feelings out, they're going to be angry with me. That it's a very natural response, at least for us people that were brought up in the 80s, that we'd respond with anger to somebody's, big emotion that we might not be expecting in that moment. But finding that calm, and that's what is for parents, busy career parents, for, people with having lots on in their life, is to understand the parent and why I react this way. And I very often ask my clients to journal about their emotions, so they can get them on paper, you know, out of their system, and then get it out of their own system, so they won't be so reactive to the difficult emotions of their children. So they have it on paper, you know, it's dealt with, it's there, you can go back to it the next day, but you're the one who's being, you know, the stone your children can rest their difficult emotions on, and you won't bounce them back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about your habit tracker and what, you know, why you developed that and what it encompasses.
Well, it was basically designed for my own needs because it's hectic, and I care for my elderly parents who live next door. I have the 3 children, one with special needs, and I'm going back and forth doing my work in the career world, where I coach coach people in the business world to be more emotionally intelligent, to get their sales numbers up. And always after coaching sessions, I found that the moms were coming to me going, "Oh my goodness, will this work with my son? Oh my goodness, can I use this at home?" I'm like, of course. I mean, emotional intelligence skills, they affect all, you know, rounds of your life, your home life, your relationship, and everything. So when you do start practicing and assessing what your strengths are and how you can use your strengths to build up your weaknesses, you know, in the different areas of emotional intelligence, you will see that your relationships with everybody, if it's work, your clients, your children, your spouse, you know, they will all go up a notch, and you will feel a lot more calm achieving something with these relationships.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, isn't it, how it just impacts kind of every part of our lives, and you know, it's like a slow journey, but eventually that these kind of reactions and management just comes naturally after we practice. I think that's the main thing, isn't it? Yeah. Well, so thank you, Helina, for coming on the summit and for sharing all your wisdom and your personal experiences as a parent with us about how we can use emotional intelligence to create that balance that we're all striving for. As I mentioned, we'll have the links to Helina's website and to her habit tracker if you want to follow up with that. And thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Helen. It was a joy being here, and all the best for the rest of your summit. And I hope to see a lot of interesting talks on here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.